This is the Xiaomi 12T Pro, a new premium phone from Xiaomi that boasts one of the highest res cameras we've seen yet. It's not all about the cameras though, there are plenty of other nice features to be found here too. I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's see what the Xiaomi 12T Pro is all about in our full review. Xiaomi has come out with two new phones, the 12T and 12T Pro. They're high-end phones, but not quite at the tier of the top flagships, more like budget flagships, if that makes any sense. Even so, the Xiaomi 12T Pro boasts something that almost no other phone can, a 200 megapixel main camera. It also packs the highest tier Snapdragon chipset and a high-res display. Looks-wise, the 12T Pro is elegant, but I wouldn't call it eye-catching. It has a subdued, no-nonsense design with a glass back and square camera bump. The frame here is made of plastic, not metal, and the phone feels nicely balanced with a solid grip. The Xiaomi 12T Pro doesn't bring full waterproofing, but it is IP53 rated against dust and light splashes. On the front of the 12T Pro is a 6.67-inch AMOLED display with a 120Hz refresh rate. Xiaomi dubs this screen Crystal Res for its higher than usual 1220p resolution. This is the first time we've seen this sort of panel from Xiaomi, and it's pretty nice. The resolution boils down to a sharp 446 ppi. And you not only get the great contrast of an AMOLED, but support for 12-bit color depth, as well as Dolby Vision that can take advantage of it. There's HDR10+ support too, and the colors can be quite accurate if you tweak them in settings. The screen is also plenty bright. We measured a maximum of over 500 nits with a manual brightness slider, and this boosts to over 900 nits in auto mode when out in the sun. Plus, the 120Hz refresh rate makes your swiping and scrolling on this display extra smooth. It's not quite as adaptive as the LTPO panels you'll find in some top flagships, but it can still dial down to save energy to as low as 30 Hz in certain situations, though we only managed to get it as low as 60 Hz. There's also an under-display fingerprint reader for biometrics, and is quite fast and responsive. The Xiaomi 12T Pro has a pair of stereo speakers with Harman Kardon sound and Dolby Atmos support. The loudness here is very good, and the overall audio quality is great too. For storage options, you get the choice of 128 or 256 gigs on board. That's not expandable through microSD though. And the interface of the 12T Pro is MIUI 13 on top of Android 12. It's a customized yet snappy UI that's basically the same one that you'll find on all of Xiaomi's recent phones. If you'd like to learn more about MIUI 13's specific functions and features, you can check out our dedicated video. At the heart of the Xiaomi 12T Pro is Qualcomm's latest and greatest chipset, the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. As expected, it's able to score some of the highest benchmark scores you can get on an Android phone right now. And in real-world use, you get a smooth and snappy UI experience and great gaming performance too. The 12T Pro has a large 5000 mAh battery, and battery life here is solid, but not quite as good as you might expect for the size of the power pack. The phone was able to earn a 91-hour endurance rating in our proprietary tests. But while the battery life isn't class-leading, the charging speed is incredible thanks to the impressive 120-watt adapter which comes in the box. With it, we were able to charge the phone from 0 to 100% in 30 minutes. And if you enable a special boost charging mode, you can go to full in just 23 minutes. Finally, we've made it to the cameras. We've already mentioned the huge 200 megapixel main cam, which has OIS. There's also an 8 megapixel ultra-wide cam and a 2 megapixel macro cam. The secondary cameras are where the Xiaomi 12T Pro falls behind more expensive flagships, which may pack a more advanced ultra-wide and a telephoto cam. Anyway, the main cam bins pixels 16:1 to produce 12.5 megapixel photos by default. The amount of detail is very good, with a pretty natural looking rendition. Noise is low, the colors are vibrant, and there's plenty of contrast. The dynamic range is wide too. You can shoot in the full 200 megapixels, but there doesn't seem to be a meaningful increase in the amount of detail. You just get a bunch of extra sharpening and a huge file size to deal with. There's another mode that's not quite as extreme, where the photos come out at 50 megapixels. Here there does seem to be some extra detail compared to the default shots, at the expense of some extra noise. The high resolution of the main cam means that the Xiaomi 12T Pro can produce a decent 2x digital zoom. The level of detail is even comparable to a dedicated 2x telephoto cam. Portraits from the main cam also use this 2x zoom level, and the results are okay. You can get good sharpness and detail if there's plenty of light. The subject separation is decent, but can be tripped up by more complex scenes. 8-megapixel photos from the ultra-wide cam provide a mid-range level of quality. There's an adequate amount of detail and slight softness near the edges. The colors are warmer and more saturated than the main cams, and dynamic range is decent. As you might expect, the 2-megapixel close-up photos from the macro camera are underwhelming. There's no autofocus here. We missed the 5-megapixel telemacro cam that we had on last year's 11T Pro. In low light conditions, the Xiaomi 12T Pro will automatically apply night mode processing to photos from the main cam. These shots are excellent. The exposure is brightened up, but not over the top. Colors are saturated, and the detail is very good, though there is plenty of sharpening added. And the dynamic range is great, with well-developed shadows and reined-in highlights. You can toggle off the night mode, and if there is enough light, you can get finer detail. Of course, the exposure is darker and the tonal extremes aren't as well preserved, but the look is a bit more natural. On the ultra-wide, you also get auto night mode processing, and the resulting photos have an acceptable level of detail and are decently well exposed. The dynamic range is good for this sort of camera. Without night mode assistance, things aren't looking as great. Most of the time, you get dark, underexposed images that are soft and noisy. Selfies come from the 20-megapixel front-facing cam, and they're decent. The detail level isn't wow, but there is good exposure, likable skin tones, and respectable dynamic range. The Xiaomi 12T Pro can record video with its main cam in up to 8K resolution at 24 FPS. This footage is decent, with praiseworthy contrast and dynamic range and lively colors. There's only a little bit more detail than the 4K videos though. These 4K clips maintain the rest of the great properties of the 8K videos, but in a more practical resolution that doesn't take so much space. The ultra-wide cam is limited to 1080p. Its footage has enough detail for this resolution, and both a warmer color rendition and contrastier look than the main camera. Stabilization is available in all resolutions and frame rates, and is always on. It does a pretty good job at smoothing things out. And in low light, the main camera captures excellent video. We'd say it's about as good as the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Sharpness and detail are great, colors are pleasingly vivid, and dynamic range is respectable too. So that's the Xiaomi 12T Pro. It's a pretty well-rounded package, with a great AMOLED display, a flagship chipset, loud stereo speakers, blazing fast charging, and solid performance from the 200-megapixel main cam, all for less money than the high-end flagships. There are a few shortcomings, more like nitpicks, like the lack of wireless charging or an IP68 rating. But for this sort of money, it's hard to complain. So the 12T Pro earns our full recommendation. Thanks for watching guys, and see you on the next one.